Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, it's Kathy, and welcome back to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. Now, I don't know if you can kind of hear this in my voice, but I am coming to you and recording this morning with a serious lack of sleep. And I had kind of a general, maybe it was kind of a bland topic to talk about today. And I decided to instead speak to, I don't know, like how I'm doing today, how I deal with days where I haven't gotten a great night's sleep before, how I deal with stress, because I'm going through some major transitions right now. And I thought that probably you are too, or at least you are very likely in what we call the moment when the semester hits the fan, right? Which is this late October, early November, if you're on a semester system, where maybe you have been like trucking along just fine. Maybe even your writing practice, you've been able to honor that 1 to 2 hours a week, that we recommend as like a great starting point. And maybe you've been doing that so far. And then, wow, mid-October hits and everything kind of goes, I don't know, like the semester hits the fan, right? Like everything goes sideways. So I thought that since I'm also, even though I am no longer a professor, I am also going through kind of like a very stressful time. And it's like, can it be stressful in a good way? It's stressful in a good way because it's stressful because of transitions. So I'll talk about that just because I know some of you like to hear about me personally, like what's going on with my life. But I would love to just kind of apply how I deal with these moments where I feel like, everything feels out of control. I feel like I don't have, a minute. I think that you probably can relate right now. So the day I'm recording this is actually Halloween. Happy Halloween. Tuesday, October 31st. And so you'll be hearing this very soon, probably like early November. And let me tell you kind of just very specifically about last night. And then I'll tell you how I'm going to approach today. And maybe you'll find some useful nuggets in there for yourself at this time of the semester. So last night at 1:30 in the morning, my darling husband opened the door in what I thought was an aggressive way. The door to the bedroom was opened aggressively. He says he was being as quiet as possible. But of course, it woke me up like out of a dream. Like I was deep asleep, woke me up out of a dream. And then he gets into bed, and eventually falls asleep. But I toss and turn until about 2:30 in the morning. And then my 8-year-old comes and wakes me up because she needs to go to the bathroom. And her bathroom in her room is not working because random, like literally the toilet, like the place that holds the water, like not the toilet bowl, but the place that holds the water, cracked. And then the other day I was just like, I go to her room and there's a giant puddle in front of her door. I'm like, what is going on here? And it was just like that the water from the back of the toilet was like dripping out because it had just like cracked randomly. Why do these things happen? Anyway, so her bathroom's not working. So she comes to use our bathroom at 2:30 in the morning. And then she tries to go back to sleep. But then at 3, she comes back and she's like, I'm scared of spiders. And I was like, look, you just stay here and sleep with your father. I'm going to go to the living room to sleep. So last night's sleep looked like, I always am like in bed by 9. I probably fell asleep from 9 to 12 and then woke up and kind of turned around and then fell asleep, got woken up at 1:30 and then didn't get back to sleep until between 3:30 and 4. And then alarm goes off at 6 to start getting kids ready for school. So I've had a cup of coffee, but I am not my best self. You probably can hear like the quality or the lack of quality of my voice. I'm also recording in my car because I'm supposed to record podcasts on Mondays, or I'm supposed to turn the audio, the podcast, over to the podcast editor on Mondays, and it just couldn't happen yesterday. And that's because I am in the middle of some major life stuff, which is great light stuff, all very good, including that you might have heard me talk about my husband before on the podcast. He's an academic and his area is dairy cattle nutrition. He's an animal scientist. And we bought a dairy. So he had worked very closely with a local farmer here in Puerto Rico for a long time. That farmer wanted to retire from his dairy business. He wanted us to have it. He can't give it to us, obviously, but he kind of made us an offer that we couldn't refuse. And we've been trying for actually like about 18 months to get the deal to go through. As with all things, like maybe, I don't know, like the timing was bad for the deal going through because we traveled, like we bought it. And then like within a few days, we left the country and we're on this trip, this great trip that we've been planning for so long with our family. And so it was like very stressful that way. And then now we're back from the trip and they're, buying a business. None of us, like we've never done this before. And there's like a transition. There's like a time, there's lots of things that need to happen. It's not like buying a shirt where you go and you pay for it and you take the shirt home and wear it. It is much more involved than that. So we are in that. And so my role, because I'm not an animal scientist, my role in the business is as like doing the finances and kind of really the businessy side, making sure payroll gets run and all those things, because I have some experience about that, even though I don't do that in my own business anymore. When I first started, I was doing that. So that's happening. The transition is taking longer and feeling more frustrating than I want it to. Nobody's fault, just, like technical things with the bank and blah, blah, blah. So I think that I wasn't losing sleep, but then I think maybe the reason that I couldn't get back to sleep last night was because there's like a lot going on. And even though my conscious brain wasn't like going through possible negative scenarios or anything like that, that can often happen. Like maybe for you right now, when you're trying to get back to sleep at night, you're like listing off all the things you haven't done that you thought you were going to do by now, right? In the semester, or all the things you have yet to do or deadlines that are coming up, right? Those things keep you up. Well, I'm not having that consciously, but I guess subconsciously I was. And it has been that way for the last couple nights. The last week or so, we've been going to the dairy and working with the former owners to do the transition. So all of this to say is I am exhausted. I am stressed out because of this transition. And thank you for listening, first of all. But also I thought like, this is probably very similar to where many of you are right now in the semester. I've had some one-on-one calls recently. There's definitely for some of you, right? Like grant deadlines coming up, conference deadlines coming up. Again, like just this feeling that like I wanted to be farther ahead right now than I am. So I want to talk about that, plus the exhaustion that comes from stress, or like those kinds of things that start to slip when we get stressed out, like our sleep and our exercise and maybe good nutrition as well. I've been doing pretty good with nutrition, but the exercise part has been wonky, definitely. So when you are in this point of the semester, right, and these things could be happening, there's two main ways that I would love for you to consider like developing as coping mechanisms for when the semester hits the fan, right? One is systems and processes. Okay. So this sounds very, I don't know, you're like systems, processes, that sounds boring. But here's the thing. When you have systems and processes, you always have them. Once you learn and develop the systems and processes that work the best for you, and you continue to put energy and time into refining them, nobody can take those away from you. So you have them to fall back on when you don't have energy or when you don't have motivation. You have the systems and processes. So the way this applies in academia, right, and specifically to writing and publishing, is, for example, you have what we call a soaring system, which is a combination of different strategies that you can use to move your writing forward consistently and sustainably. So part of the soaring system, the base, I think of it as a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is this 1 to 2 hours once or twice a week of writing in what we call your soaring state, which basically just means your best time of day. So you're not giving writing to the edges of your time. You're not like saying like, oh, writing's going to get my leftover time. But instead, writing is going to get my best hours of the day, the hours when I have the most energy, the hours when I'm most excited to be working. And those are the hours that you're going to spend on writing. So that concept, just start there, right? The base of the soaring system, which, by the way, we teach in Navigate. Go get on the wait list. It's scholarsvoice.org/navigate. Find the pink button, get on the wait list. We are running a cohort that starts January 29th. So you're going to want to get on the wait list so that you can apply as soon as we open applications. Anyway, that base is something that needs development. It needs time. It needs consideration. You need to figure out when is your best time to write. Once you figure that out, which is not straightforward, because for some people there is a clear time. For other people, you need to use kind of different techniques in order to get that soaring feeling. Anyway, once you figure that out, then you have to put it on your calendar. So that time might not be clear on your calendar for something. Maybe you're teaching during that time. So it might take some effort to manipulate your schedule so that you can get that 1 to 2 hours once or twice a week at your ideal kind of time of day. So you figure out what the time is. That's step 1. Step 2 is get it to be free on your calendar. Step 3 is honor it. And that is not straightforward, right? Like, like it's not straightforward. You can put it on the calendar and just blow through it like you do any other promise to yourself that you're willing to break. Let's be honest. So that step 3 part takes time. It takes practice. It takes practice in the sense of a writing practice, right? And then you have to kind of exercise the consistency muscle. So maybe step 4 is that, right? Like you're consistently using it, you're honoring it, right? Which means you put boundaries around it. Then you're honoring it. And maybe step 5 is, and again, this is something you need to develop. You can trust that if you do, like after you've established that rhythm and the semester hits the fan and you got to do something else during your writing time, then you can get back to it. You don't have to feel like, oh, I lost this rhythm and it is lost forever. No, you know how to get back to it because you know how to do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not straightforward, right? Like maybe it's straightforward, like in terms of like, it's easy to understand those 5 steps. It takes time and practice to implement. That's just one part of the soaring system. But that's what I mean by systems. You have that to fall back on. So when you have a good, solid system, a way of doing things, a workflow, a way of calendaring, a way of holding boundaries, all of that. When you have that, then when the semester hits the fan, or when you have a sleepless night, or when things get extra stressful, you can do the second important thing that I want to talk about today, which is treat yourself like a human and don't try to power through. Okay. So the systems are what you can rely on for getting back to your workflow or your flow of production, if you want to call it that. And the honoring your humanity is what gets you through days like the day I'm having today. So today I knew I needed to record this podcast, but instead of trying to, instead of trying to like do what I was originally planning to do in terms of the topic, I'm like, no, I'm just going to pull over. I'm in a parking lot, almost at the dairy. I'm in a parking lot. I'm just going to record this on my phone using my headphones. So I'm not using my podcast mic. Does it mean that the quality of the audio might not be as great? Yes. Is that okay? Also, yes. And I'm talking, off the cuff here. Like I had an idea. I've been driving for about 30 minutes. So I've been developing the idea of what I wanted to talk about in my head. But it's like, no, every once in a while, Kathy, you can have an off-the-cuff podcast. People probably like them even more than your like super planned, teachery kind of, or very coachy podcasts. And you can do it in one take and then go on with your day. Because that being gentle on yourself, being able to say like, okay, I'm going to, instead of trying to power through, right? And I think in some podcasts before I said, you are powerful, but you do not have to power through. Like, I think that's BS, like forget powering through. When you have the systems in place, it becomes easier to treat yourself with a lot of humanity and grace on days where you feel exhausted or on days where it's extra stressful because things are like kind of aligning together in a way that just causes stress. Now, let me also say, if you do not have the systems in place yet, please always treat yourself with humanity and grace. So what does that look like? So for me today, I have a meeting that actually should be happening right now, but I'm going to be a little bit late for it because I pulled over into this parking lot to record this podcast. Because I knew that if I got this podcast done, that would be like a big weight off my shoulders. And so it was better to do it first. So I will have a meeting this morning. I will learn how to write a check to pay for feed, which is on the agenda today. And then I will have a call with a client, a potential client, about coming to our July retreat. And then I will have a one-on-one coaching call with a client. So that is what my day looks like. It's also Halloween, which means I have to take the 8-year-old trick-or-treating, which I know I'm going to feel tired to do, but I'm going to do it. And I'll just wear comfortable shoes, and eat really well before I go. And also feel free to tell my 8-year-old, here's the limits to the amount of time we're going to spend trick-or-treating today. Like it's from this time to this time. And then we're going to go home because I really need to get to sleep. If I possibly have time for a nap today, I'm going to take it. I do not see that I'm going to be able to do that. So this is just to give you an example of like, okay, what did I do in order to like treat myself with humanity and grace so far today? Number 1, big cup of coffee this morning before I left. Number 2, lowered expectations around quality of the podcast in terms of audio quality, right? Decided on a different topic that was going to be easier for me to kind of riff on because I knew I wouldn't have a lot of time to plan and then record. Compromising on audio quality, right? I'm sitting in my car using my earbuds to record onto the audio app of my phone instead of at my desk with my podcast mic and all of that. Also, I'm very open to kind of like whatever happens today happens. Hopefully it's going to be like an amazing day and everything's going to go smoothly. But it's been clunky with this transition and being able to do the work I need to do at the dairy in terms of the financial side of it. And I realized that today may continue to be clunky. It may continue to be, kind of not what I want. And that's okay. And I also have already decided, these are the limits on my trick-or-treating abilities today. I just got a text in the parent chat about the third graders are all going to go to the mall to trick-or-treat at a certain time. But I already have plans with my 8-year-old's little bestie to go at 6 in a neighborhood that's much closer. So I'm not even going to be talking to the 8-year-old about going to the mall trick-or-treating. In a more energetic moment, I might have tried to do both. But that is not happening today because I just don't have the energy for it. She's going to have a great time anyway. So really, I think that those are just examples of ways that today I'm going to treat myself really well. Also, I have delicious food packed. I'm very thankful to my Sunday self who packed lunches for this whole week, inspired by an Instagram recipe. I have lunches packed for every day. And that means that I can eat something really nutritious and I don't have to worry about, driving, finding something greasy to eat and going back to the office at the dairy. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. So 2 things that are going to help you get through when the semester hits the fan or particularly stressful moments or anything like that. One is systems. If you want to develop your systems around writing and publishing that also overflow into your systems around everything, then get on the waitlist for Navigate. You can go to scholarsvoice.org/navigate, find the pink button, get on the waitlist. If you're listening to this podcast when registration is open or when applications are open, that pink button will say apply now. And so you can go ahead and apply, go through our application process. If you're listening in real time, we are running our next session starting January 29th and ending, I believe, April 19th. We meet Fridays, Eastern Standard Time at 11. More about Navigate will be coming up in future episodes. You can hear about it in past episodes. You can find out about it on the YouTube channel. So if you want to create those systems that can give you that confidence that you, even when the semester hits the fan, it's okay because you have systems in place that you can go back to when you get through the rough spot, then Navigate's a great way to do it. And then the other thing is to treat yourself and to always treat yourself with humanity and grace. When you are stressed out, when you are extra tired, you deserve to be treated like a human at all times, and especially by yourself. So think about ways that you can add that humanity, more humanity, into how you are treating yourself every day, but especially on days after little sleep or during this stressful time of the semester. Sending you big hugs, knowing that you can get through, but that you don't need to power through because that's inhumane. You can treat yourself gracefully. You can lower some standards. You can take some shortcuts. You can disappoint some people. It's okay because you need to preserve your energy and you will get through. All right. So sending big hugs. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.